Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony.
We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
Oh, whatever it is.
Hey, welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 61. All the way from Sydney, joined with a special guest here today. We've got...
Thao Thanh Cao.
That's very perfect. First time we've ever done that intro, so I appreciate just being able to nail it from the get-go.
Well done, you're a pro.
Anyone that listens to this show knows that, like, I don't mind leaving in things that I don't get right the first time, like editing and that sort of stuff. I prefer to have like more of a natural feel. So, and that's a bit like how I do comedy as well. Like if I notice a lot of comedians tend to have like well-rehearsed, like organised sets, like with specific callbacks and things like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas my style of comedy tends to be a little bit more off the cuff.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I would say I'm more scripted than that. Yeah. But I think that's something I want to learn a little bit more, to be a bit more impromptu. And, to be able to improvise. I think that's a very good skill to have if you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, what about, like, crowd work and that sort of stuff? Do you ever sort of have any experience with crowd work where you was trying to, like, introduce it to a bit or anything like that?
I'd ask questions as part of my act, just to a segue to the joke.
Yep.
But I don't do as much crowd work as I'd like to. And I think it's just, I want to get straight to the joke and make people laugh as quick as possible.
Yeah, efficient.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the time you have such a short time on stage. Like, especially, I find I get even more nervous when I only have like a 5-minute spot to do. So it's like, I've got such a short time to prove myself. So I better, hit hard as soon as possible. So
yeah, you're sort of looking at like the laugh time ratio sort of thing.
Yeah, you want to make a good impression as soon as possible. That's probably why I would be very anxious when it comes to speed dating. So I try and avoid that.
Oh, well, that's why, like, I'm the opposite, right? So like I'm not good at like the long game, right? Like, so like when you're saying about dating, I'm not good at matching with someone on Tinder and then talking to them and like developing like a point where we meet up. I'm more so the guy that, like, I'll go on a speed date, set a good impression, and then they'll be like, oh, that guy was actually really good. Whereas on Tinder, I'm the dude that they just scroll past, like, yeah, look, there's enough white guys with beards here, like, I don't need another one, sort of thing.
Wow. You feel like they don't give you a chance?
Yeah, I feel like I get more... I think that I'm better at making an impression in person than like via message.
All right. Okay. No, I feel like I make a lot of bad first impressions from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get to know me.
Yeah. No, that's good though. Like I think that that's more likely to harbour like a longer lasting friendship or relationship or whatever, potential relationship that then becomes a friendship because, the old friend zone. But I know what it's like when you're saying about 5-minute spots. You got to kind of prove yourself. I remember when I first started. So this is my 5th year. How long you been doing comedy for?
I started in 2014.
Yep.
So what's that? 8 years now?
Yeah. Yeah, well, mentioned off mic that I'm terrible at math, so like any guess is as good as mine. But I know when I first started, it was like that 5 minutes was so daunting, and then before you know it, you're starting to like, because I do a lot more improv, like sort of off the cuff stuff, I'd sort of go more into the whole like, oh wow, I'm hitting like 4.5 and I haven't even said, half my set yet,
Yeah. Well, that's good. If you feel like you're dragging it on at the beginning, it takes a while to before you get to the jokes, or
Yeah.
if you're able, yeah.
Yeah, but also, like, you kind of, I guess, like, when I do it, I'm like, I don't want to do it if it's not going to be funny. So, like, if I do, like, some crowd work, but it's not going anywhere, I don't see any potential or whatever, then I can just fall back onto the material. But, like, if I just happen to have, like, a moment where I'm like, you know, someone yells something out or something, and I'm like, oh, that's a good, like, chance for me to do some crowd work, I'll do that. And then I'll, like, if it doesn't go anywhere, I'll just be like, well, I've got this material here ready, so I can just jump into that.
Yeah, no, that's good that you do that. It's like, I mean, for me, I feel like I rely on my jokes too much. You know, it becomes a crutch. Like, I feel like it's nice to be able to interact more with the audience and get to know them and be able to just use the jokes whenever I feel I need to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's also a nice way just to interact with the audience.
Yeah, I guess there's different times for, you know, different things. Like, for example, if I'm doing, we mentioned when we initially spoke about a different venue in town, Smiths, you mentioned that you did a gig there before.
Yeah, alternative. Yeah.
I find the Smiths crowd, like, I tend to do more interaction with them because normally they run an open mic there on, like, a Sunday night. So people are a bit more relaxed and sort of willing to have more interactions. But if, I guess it's more of like a planned, ticketed, non-open mic gig, then obviously people are waiting for like some more material or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I've performed there a couple times at Smith.
Yeah.
I find it's quite laid back, the crowd.
yeah.
So yeah. What's the basement like? Is it similar or is it more? I've noticed it's more musical stuff.
Yeah. So the basement's predominantly music, and it's only recently started with. Well, when I say recently, the basement's been a thing for like 15 years or something. It's been a music venue. So in the timeline of the basement, it's only really been doing comedy for the past. I've been doing open mics there since 2018.
Okay.
So it's not that long in the grand scheme of things that it's been doing comedy, but the music crowd that it initially attracted, now more of a comedy crowd as well. They're all really good, like really receptive, supportive of new. Like when I do an open mic and new people come along, they're like really welcoming and kind, and also professionals like yourself, been doing it for years. They're a really good crowd.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from because it's like a music venue. They're not really in the mindset of like, you know, not enjoying a performance. Like with music, right? Like even if someone like fucks up a chord or they like do something wrong, they like drop a note or whatever, the crowd's going to be like into that. They're going to be like, oh, that's all right, you did, you good, I liked the song, you know. So they bring that energy.
They're very friendly.
Yeah, they bring that energy to the comedy. Like if like I've seen open micers, they'll get along and they'll be like, oh man, I forgot that joke or whatever, and they'll get like an applause for that. They'll like get an applause for admitting that they fucked up. It just makes people excited to like, especially an open mic, right? Like because that's what an open mic's for. But I've seen ticketed gigs where people will be like, oh man, I forgot the callback or something like that, and they'll just as long as they say what they did, like the crowd usually gets behind it. So
okay, so if you admit your mistakes, they're happy with that.
yeah, they like honesty.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's good to know. Thanks for the tip. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, we're talking about doing Smiths as well, but you haven't just done like the Canberra circuit. What else have you got on the repertoire? I've seen some pretty big venues and gigs in your list.
Well, a while back, I did a short and sweet comedy act. That was back in 2016 or something like that. And then I took a show to Edinburgh Festival a while back. So I did a bit of travelling overseas, and I managed to get some gigs in other countries as well. So yeah,
awesome.
I had a chance to see what the comedy scene is like in Europe and the UK. So yeah, it's been a pretty fun journey.
That's awesome. So we're chatting, I think. So for people that don't know, initially we had a conversation about doing a gig at the basement, and we had like about an hour chat about all the different gigs that you've done in the past. And you're saying in that conversation about the atmosphere and the vibe at Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about like what that was like to have all the performers in one area?
Oh, it was a slog. It was really tough, Edinburgh. I didn't realize how tough it was until I went there, and I realized, I thought I had an hour worth of material.
Yep.
And after doing the show and doing it 25 times, I realized I may have about 20 minutes. So it was a really, really big learning experience for me. But no, I really enjoyed it. So I do see myself wanting to go back with a new show and proving myself. And hopefully this time I do have an hour worth of material. So, but we'll see what happens. That's if I can fly over there. It's been tricky with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Anymore. But at Edinburgh, a challenge. I mean, I was told that year that I went and did it was 2018, and across the board there was thousands of shows, and I think the average audience numbers were about 4.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 4 people is the average. And so I had a couple of sold out shows, and it was up and down constantly.
Yeah.
So but I did manage to, the smallest number I got was 4. So I managed to
stay above
be
average.
Just above average. But still it was I don't think I even broke even if you counted like the airfare tickets and the cost of registration and all that. So you go for the learning experience more than anything. And I did get a lot out of it. So I'm glad I went.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's kind of hard to like, even with like local gigs, it's hard to get to the point where you actually make money. I think breaking even's usually the goal early on. But I think that all in all, most gigs are more, for me, I found I get more out of the networking and talking to other comedians and sort of like the atmosphere of the gig than I do out of, any financial gain from it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I went for that reason as well, and just to be familiar with the area and to know what rooms are really the good rooms to get into next time. And just to meet new people. And like even when I was traveling, I was meeting a lot of room runners from overseas. So I'm thinking down the track, maybe, if things go well with Edinburgh, I could just go and, do a show in Berlin or Prague or something like that. And,
that sounds really cool. Yeah, that sounds really cool. So what's the overseas crowd like? Do you find that there's certain jokes that like you maybe need to pull from your set or rearrange because they might be like references to like Aussie stuff?
I was surprised at some jokes that were more, that Australians would be more familiar with still worked over there. And I was quite surprised that when I worked hard in trying to know the culture and know the people and, things like that, there was actually not many people from Edinburgh, the locals going to watch it. If anything, they're avoiding the festival. Yeah. And it was mainly international people that would be going to watch it. So it's kind of like doing a show in Bondi where you have a lot of tourist people coming to watch you than locals.
No, that makes sense to me. It reminds me of like when I used to live down the south coast of New South Wales. And all the locals over the Christmas holiday period just basically like, it's like being in isolation before isolation was a thing. Like they would just lock up in their house and wait for all the tourists to go away before they'd come back out again.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happens in Edinburgh. I think they're sick of just all the comedians coming and flyering and trying to get their attention and things like that. So they're, if anything, they're probably avoiding us and waiting for us to leave so they can get their home back again, their community back. Yeah.
Mind you, like just like when I was living down the coast, a lot of the revenue for the area comes from the tourists. So like I think that the locals tend to understand that like as much as we don't get out in it, that's what helps the economy. So and the last couple of years of having no real travel or tourists has probably shown how important it is that, you know, you get visitors.
Yeah, that's true. They'll probably be eager to have us back, actually.
Yeah, they'll help fly
If anything, yeah, they'll probably be coming to the show, and yeah, I should do the jokes that didn't work last time on them. They'll probably be there.
Yeah, you get a new, fresh experience. So it's like sometimes when I have a couple of jokes that I'm like happy with, like I've sort of got them to the point where, I don't think I can improve them much more, you know, like, you know, when you're working on a bit and you're like, oh, I want to change that, or I got to move this around and that sort of thing. I've got a few that I like, can't really think of anything that I want to do to change it. Yeah. And once I get them to that point, I tend to just like stop doing them and not bring them back unless I need to. Like I'll sort of put them in the bank for if I do like a bigger show down the track, like I'll rest it for a little while. And
that means you don't use jokes as a crutch then. Like if you've got a good joke and then you just put it aside, you don't take it out as often. I'll
pull it out if like shit starts going downhill. Like if I start a new bit and it starts bombing, I'll be like, all right, time to pull out the old faithful. But but or if I like score like a bigger gig, like say for example someone wants me to open for them, I'll make up 5 minutes of all the jokes that I know work. But for the most part, when I'm doing open mics and stuff, I won't tend to do material that I'm happy with.
Yeah. Oh right. Okay. I guess that means you must have a lot of material then. If you're always making new stuff up. That's pretty good. Yeah,
well, I've got quite a bit of material, but I haven't put it all together. It's like you were saying, you know, I think I've got a certain amount of material, but then if I put it all together, I'll probably find that I don't have as much as I thought. But like I think at this point, 5 years in, I've probably got 45 to an hour of stuff I'm happy with. But I've never put it all together. So that's why I'd like to sort of, I'm getting to the point now, 5 years in, that I'm getting shows that are running long enough. Like I'm kind of doing a couple of like 20-minute spots and that sort of thing. So I can finally do like longer sets. Yeah. And it's only the last like couple of years that I've been able to do more than 5 minutes, you know, like it's hard to, being able to do your first 15, you're like, wow, I have to join 3 5-minute sets together to make this much time, you know?
Yeah. So do you feel like you're almost ready for a solid, you know, solo hour?
I'd like to, I'm planning at the moment to put together an hour by the end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to sort of do an hour show, maybe like November or something like that. And that'd be, I think that's enough time to put it together. I've done a couple of, I tend to do like regular 10 to 15 minute spots now. And I've done quite a few more, like 15 to 20 minute spots than I've done more in the last year than I did in the previous 4 years. So yeah, I guess it's just taking that next step. But stage time's so difficult in Canberra. Like you only really have open mics or like hours. There's not much in between.
Right. So you're running an open mic, and is it Smith that's running an open mic there as well?
Yeah. So there's Smith. There's a few. There's Smith.
Monthly?
Sorry.
Is it monthly?
Yeah, so I run an open mic monthly. I run the ticketed gig, which you're on monthly as well. So twice a month I do comedy at the basement. And then there's also Smith's Alternative is once a month at least. Sometimes they do it twice a month depending on the schedule, but it's definitely like they got a placeholder once a month. Sometimes they'll put on a second one if there's enough interest. And there's the Front, which is in Lynham. It's another open mic. It's one of the older running open mics. And there's the Front. There's one in Queanbeyan, which is like just south of Canberra. So there's about one a week, like when you put them all together.
That's not too bad.
But yeah,
and
like
how many people are on per night?
Well, usually I know on the open mic I run, I cap it at 14.
Okay.
And it's usually about the same for all the others as well.
14, okay.
But there's normally more than that, but they cap it so that it doesn't run too late.
Oh, okay. I think in Sydney, I mean, a while back when I was emceeing one of the open mics, Mug and Kettle, I don't think they're on anymore.
Yeah, Dan Muggleton used to run that. He's been on the show before, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't think they go anymore, but it was like 50 in one night. So, starting at 7 and it would finish at 12 o'clock or something crazy. Yeah, so it was far too long.
Yeah, well,
but,
we're recording this on the Sunday after the comedy festival. I was on that last night, and I was talking to you off the show about the gala, and it ran until about 1 o'clock last night.
Really?
Yeah, because they didn't kick it off until after the last show, so it didn't start till 10:30.
Oh wow, that's heaps late.
Yeah.
I mean, people would have been falling asleep by midnight.
No, anyone that was going to fall asleep left in the break, and all that was left at the end was like drunk, happy people.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's good. Then, they still had a good crowd then.
Yeah, there was a couple of good little drop-ins as well. Like they had, it wasn't announced on the lineup, I don't think, but they had a drop-in from Stephen K. Amos.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he came in and did a really good set. Did probably over 5 minutes, but it was so exciting to see. And it wasn't just material; he dealt with a heckler as well, and it was phenomenal.
Oh right, okay, that's great.
Yeah, he was really good. So yeah, it was a really good night. I was lucky enough to see so many really cool comedians in one short time. That's why I stayed there until the end, because I just, didn't want to. It was like one of those things where I didn't want to leave, but like it was getting late, but I didn't care,
So with the gala, was it just all Aussie acts except Stephen?
Interstate and local, yeah.
Oh, it wasn't interstate.
Yeah,
okay.
but they had they had basically anyone that had a show in the comedy festival was there. So they had it was a really good variety of all the different acts that were there. Yeah.
Okay.
And they had like some couple of different. They had a musical act as well. I seen the Stevenson Experience.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, what's the?
They're a local, right? The Stevenson Experience.
I can't remember. I don't think so though. I think they're Melbourne, maybe. I can't remember.
Okay.
There's quite a few Melbourne acts there. Luke Hagee was there from Sydney.
Right. Very
Nick
funny.
Cody was there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, some really cool names on the lineup. I got one of Luke Hagee's tradie pencils, his merch.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Giving out merch because like tradie merch. I did some work with the festival. I was just bartending at one of the theatres there.
Okay.
And and it was funny to see the different crowds. Like you see like one crowd coming in for like the local acts, like the there's some of the gigs that have 3 Canberra comedians making up an hour, so 20-minute sets each.
Okay.
And their crowd would be like, people that know them, their parents, like all their friends, all that sort of stuff. And then after that, they leave. Luke Heggie does a show, then like a couple nights later, and I'm on the bar and I just see like all these like tradies coming in. They've had like drinks before they got there. They're like,
that's definitely his crowd. Tradies. He knows his target market. That's good.
It's like you don't have to worry about stocking up the wine. Just make sure there's plenty of beer.
Yes, exactly.
But what you're saying about different rooms, like you're talking about the Mug and Kettle. What other rooms sort of come to mind when you think of the Sydney comedy scene?
Oh, to be honest, I haven't been out doing as many open mics as I used to. I think when I started early on, like the first 2 years, I was just going out and doing a lot of gigs.
Yep.
And then I think when I went to Edinburgh and I kind of hit the plateau, and I'm like, I only did a few rooms that, I was invited to. So I feel like I'm not too familiar with the open mic scene in Sydney as I used to be. And so even now, if I was to go out and ask a room runner in Sydney if I can get a gig, I think some of them don't even know. Like, they're all a lot of new room runners.
Yeah, yeah.
So they'll be like, do you have a video? How long have you been doing comedy for? And then, to be honest, I was so surprised when I messaged you and asked if I could do a spot, and straight away, without a video, without a bio, without any information, like, yes, do it. I'm thinking, oh, wow, you guys must really want entertainment in Canberra.
Now, the difference is, unlike some room runners, I actually did the legwork. So instead of being the room runner that makes you do all the work, I'm like, well, I appreciate that you reached out, but in the meantime, I looked you up online, seen your videos myself, instead of making you send them to me. The difference is, if you send it to me, you get to choose what I see. Whereas if I look it up, I get to go through the other stuff. So, I
appreciate that, because there's been times when they've asked me to send them a video. I'll send them a video and I still don't get a reply. So, yeah, it's...
That happens for me in Sydney. I recently applied for... Look, I only applied for it this week, but I put in an application for a spot in Sydney and I had to send a video. I haven't heard back, but I don't expect to hear back like straight away, if at all. The thing is, like, a lot of people want videos, but it's so hard for me to depict my act in a video. It's like you're saying before, I've got 5 minutes to wow you. Like in today's society where everybody wants to see TikTok videos that go for less than a minute, or like it's so hard to like capture someone's attention for long enough to watch a 5-minute set. I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, and one of the trending subjects that comes up across multiple platforms is a lot of comedians, even like at like the top tier level, like Netflix level, they're like, I put an hour of content out and people don't want to sit down for an hour and watch the whole thing. This is like, it's so hard to like, that's why I think live gigs are good, because you're kind of already there. Like, you're watching it. You can't just like hit pause, like, I think that's why I like going out to shows and watching them, because we're spoiled for content. There's so much online for you to just, people get bored of something, they just go on to the next video, and, something you might work so hard to get can just be someone's like, I watched it for 10 seconds. It didn't captivate me in 10 seconds, so I kept watching. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're right. I mean, people's attention span is so short these days.
Yeah.
And you don't know what people like. It's hard to tell whether a joke is going to work or not, and what makes one person laugh may not make another person laugh. So even if you show them a video, it's not really going to be enough proof of your credibility. So
yeah, it's really hard to like as a room runner myself, I try to be subjective as well. Like when I book acts, I tend to find different types of comedy that cover like a broader range, when I book like a headliner, I'll choose like a support that may complement or may be different. You know, it's I try not to have all the same like style of comedy the entire night. You know, so but
variety and is good.
Normally I have mixed bills, but it's good to have a solo show. I'm looking forward to the upcoming gig and being able to sort of have enough stage time to really get into an act. Normally the headliner will do half an hour, and I've had, like for example, last month I had Kai Fei, Canberra comedian, he did half an hour. But he's doing a solo tour now. So that was like, he did that show and now he's doing a solo tour.
Wow.
And he was saying that because he's so ready to do his solo tour, he could have done more. Like he got to like, I think he did like 35 minutes and he was like, I wanted to like keep going, you know. So it's that middle ground of like doing an hour, doing half an hour. Sometimes you want to just keep going.
Well, that's good. I mean, he must have done well to feel that way.
Yeah, he did really well. I think he's just keen to be able to do an hour. Like, so he had a show booked for Melbourne Comedy Festival and he got cancelled, and then he didn't get to do the festival. So he had an hour show that he didn't get to do.
Oh, that's a shame.
So I guess he's just keen to like be able to finally do the show, you know. I was listening to a podcast yesterday and one of the comedians was just like, I just want to record my hour so I can work on new stuff. He's like, because I've been doing the same hour for like 2 years. I'm sick of my own material.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common for a lot of comedians. Yeah, you're so over your own jokes that you're quite surprised when it gets laughter.
It's always good when you see a comedian get surprised at people laughing. Like sometimes I'll do an open mic. Someone will do like, I had this one joke that I just thought of as I was driving to the gig, and there was like a short gap, like a break between after I finished one joke, and I was just like, I'll just throw that bit out now because it was just a couple of lines, and it got like a bigger laugh than the joke I just did, which I like thought out and planned, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, I didn't think you guys would like that. And then that got like another laugh because I was just surprised. Yeah,
I get surprised when I say a couple words and I haven't even gotten to the punchline yet and they're already laughing, and then it's like you're just waiting for a moment to continue.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're great moments too, especially when you've prepared to do like 10 minutes and then you only end up doing about 5 minutes of your actual material and the rest was just the audience laughing. So it's like, oh, what a relief. Yeah, that's when you know you've done a good gig, when you don't end up finishing your entire set. So
yeah, I've done so I did Smith's a couple months ago, and one of the new guys in town, he did Class Clowns. He's like young comedian. He's just turned 18. His name's Ethan Kirk. He actually last night, one of the guys that runs the festival gave him a 5-minute spot on the gala.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
He was just like, you can get up, like go ahead. And the MC did a really good job of introducing him. Tom Gibson's a Canberra comedian. He MC'd it, and he was just like, this guy's new to comedy. He just turned 18. He did Class Clowns. You know, he was told to do this set 15 minutes ago and he's ready. You know, they gave him a really warm welcome, and he goes up there and he did his material and did really good. Like, the crowd was so excited to see him, you know, on stage and like with all these like big comedians.
Oh, nice. That's really nice that they gave him that opportunity.
Yeah, it was really cool. So he MC'd Smith's, I think, a couple months ago or a month ago. And because there wasn't many people on the lineup, he said that we could do, like, me and another guy that have been doing comedy for around the same amount of time. He said, you guys can do longer sets if you want to go at the end and do longer. Yeah. So I did, he said you can do 10, and I got to 10 minutes. I sort of thought, it's about 10 minutes. I looked over and I said, how are we going for time? And he was like, keep going, because the set was going like well. So I did like another 5, and I was like, man, I just did 15. It just felt so good to like not just do 15, but go up to do 5, but it turned into 15 because they wanted to, like, the MC was like, keep going, and the crowd wanted to hear more. You know what I mean?
That's good. That's a sign that you're doing really well.
Yep.
And it seems like you're still so excited about comedy, because usually people do this first year, for 2 years, they're kind of over it or they become bitter. But it sounds like you're still craving for it. So it's still, you have a very fresh perspective on comedy.
The spark's still in my comedy marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't had to, revamp it. Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm still bitter, but I just
You're not showing it then.
I just choose,
You're hiding it well.
No, I guess I'm lucky that I run a room, because it gives me, it gets me submerged in the scene, because I'm interacting with comedians. I'm booking spots. I'm keeping an eye out for people to like be on the ticketed gigs and that sort of thing. So it sort of keeps it fresh, because I have to be so involved in everything.
Well, you're playing a lot of roles in that sense. So you're juggling a lot. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. I'm lucky that my work's fairly flexible and accommodating for that, because if I had a really demanding line of work or whatever, it'd be hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I work in IT, and currently, since the end of last year, I haven't worked in IT. So like I've literally just been like, I normally work in IT, and I'm qualified in IT, and I can go back to IT. But I finished up a job in December and haven't picked up anything else. And I work at the basement as well as run the room there. So because it's all night work, I can sort of spend my days booking and organising things, editing footage and like all that sort of stuff, content. And then I'll just do, and I don't even do that many shifts there. It's just I basically just do enough to that I can do, and then that keeps me going until the next IT job comes up, and top up the savings, and then go back into it again.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky that like I'm in a line of work that I can take time off and just work at the bar and focus on other things for a little bit, and then go back in. Yeah.
But do you find it quite consuming? Like, because I know people who organise rooms, and it's a lot of work. So, and to the point where it makes it difficult for them to focus on their own material. So,
yeah, I think
has that been a challenge, or?
I think I'm gonna flip the script. You're interviewing me now. So we'll. No, that's good though. No, I enjoy it. Like I said before, I like to talk as much as I can. So if you give me opportunity to chat on my own show, then that's well. Anyway, we're gonna make this about you, but I don't mind stepping in and talking about myself. No, so
as long as you have something interesting to say, it doesn't matter who's talking, right?
Yeah, true. I guess I'm not really proving to be that interesting talking about myself. It's like yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's like I feel like it's an open mic. I got 5 minutes to prove myself. But no, so I like booking the room. I actually enjoy doing the work. I'm very like process orientated, so I like to I like to tick stuff. I like to complete tasks and knock them off the list. Like I get satisfaction out of accomplishing things. So whenever I have to do something, I make it a note, and then that's what motivates me to like continue to do it. So I actually enjoy doing like completing tasks, and that's what sort of keeps me doing it. But yeah, it is quite consuming, but I think because I have that flexibility to actually focus on running the room and booking acts and that sort of stuff, it keeps it fresh. Plus, I enjoy comedy, and also because my style of comedy isn't so thought out and planned and like scripted, it doesn't impact it as much because I don't have to rehearse it as much and like practice.
You don't have to prepare as much.
Yeah, whereas if I had like a really like theatrical style performance where everything needed to like mesh together, or otherwise it wouldn't work, then it had to be like really rehearsed, then I think it would impact more. Not to say that I wouldn't be able to benefit from putting more time into practicing. I feel like my sets that I have more time to practice or to rehearse or to write or to reword, they are still my better sets, but if I don't have that time, it's not like the set's completely ruined. It's just that, like, if I have more time, it is better, though. So, yeah. It's a balance, I guess. Did you have any more questions for me?
I think I'm asking a lot of questions because, like, my background, I did a bit of podcasting before as well, so I think I was always more comfortable asking the questions rather than answering. So that's probably why I'm flipping things around.
That's good though. Tell us about your podcasting. What have you done in the past?
A while ago. I was co-hosting a podcast called Women in Comedy.
Yep.
And we interviewed a lot of female comedians from Sydney. So yeah, we just asked them questions about comedy, but also just random life questions too. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what sort of do you have any like funny memories from that, or like interesting guests or anything that have come to mind?
Oh, I don't really remember any real funny moments, but no, just talking about the challenges of, you know, doing comedy and being a female, and just random stuff really. So yeah, nothing really funny. It was just talking.
Yeah. That's good though. I think that the podcast is a good platform to, you know, it seems like a good platform to just be able to like have open conversations and chats without needing to go through like I've done radio before, and I did radio for a couple of years, and I find that there's a bit of restriction on the conversation because there's certain topics that you aren't allowed to talk about on air.
Yeah.
There's certain things that they're like, oh, you know, you can't talk about alcohol, you can't talk about drugs, you can't talk about, you know, you can't swear, any of that sort of stuff. So it was like...
Who made those rules? Is that just a policy with certain podcasts or?
No, for radio, sorry, not podcast.
Oh, radio, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, yeah.
Oh, not this podcast for sure. You probably already realised. You were just getting data together so you could tell me like, well, you better go back to like 21 minutes when you swore and take that out, sort of thing. That's your podcasting background. You like make a mental note of the bits you need to edit as you're recording it. But on the subject of your previous show, have you had any issues being a comedian, being a female comedian in the scene? Has there been any trouble?
I haven't had any real dramas. I mean, I think everyone has been pretty nice to me. Yeah, I mean, I've travelled a lot with other comedians. I remember a while back doing a road trip with just me and I think it was 4 other male comics, and they were all lovely to me. So yeah, no dramas, no real problems. I don't get harassed or anything. So I've been lucky. Not to say it doesn't happen to other female comics. Yeah. But yeah, I've been very fortunate. So all the male comics that I've interacted with have been just lovely to me. But yeah. So I've been lucky.
Yeah, excellent. That's good to hear that, like, you know, some positive stories from traveling as well. I know that, like, not just with with the local scene, but I've done a couple of like interstate gigs, and I know that traveling definitely adds an extra layer of like short fuses on the road. Like sometimes I know a lot with bands when they travel, it tends to like the tensions might be higher because they less sleep, like they sometimes sleep in the car, they don't get to like go to hotels and that sort of thing.
Oh, look, that being said, yeah, I mean, because I was the only female comic, I got a room to myself and the boys had to share a room. So, I mean, I remember a while back one of the comics was complaining, how come Tao gets her own room? It's not fair. But other than that, was about the only tension that happened. Yeah, I can understand the guys got a bit frustrated, but I felt really lucky. It was nice having my own space. So they were really nice to be able to give that to me. I really appreciate it. So shout out to the guys. It was the show we did was to raise money for Soldier On.
Yep.
So all the guys that were on that lineup was really, really, really great. So shout out to Rob Andrews for organising that and letting me have my own room. So, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's one of those things where it's like we're talking about the cost of touring and trying to keep up with accommodation and travel and all that sort of stuff. So either way you look at it, it's always going to be difficult because accommodation and travel are like a very large portion of the expenses, not to mention like you said about fees for like venues and things like that as well. So it's good to, I guess, to be able to go in a group and share some of those expenses a little bit and share the traveling.
I guess that's why split bills are so popular.
Yeah.
That's what you should consider doing, actually. You said you had an hour.
Yeah.
Almost an hour. So maybe with the Sydney Fringe Festival, that's an option for you.
Yeah. Well, as well as Adelaide as well. Like I like the look of the Adelaide Fringe Festival as well. Like, yeah, there's plenty of options, and I'm keen to sort of get into that. I'm sort of at that point now where I want to start branching out a little bit more. I did a gig in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, just a one night flight, like go up real quick, come back. I went up with a fellow comedian of mine and did the room at the Laugh Mob had Wonderland.
Is it Wonderland?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was called Wonder Bar when I performed there a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, King's Cross.
Yeah.
King's Cross.
In the Cross.
How was that?
It was good. Yeah, that was really good. And I met like a couple of the other comedians that were on the bill as well, which is always good to network. So, it was a really, really good room. And it was cool to just, be able to do a gig outside of Canberra to mix it up a little bit. I always love Canberra. I like Canberra gigs. That's where, where I'm comfortable, but I also like pushing the boundaries a little bit and try something a bit out of my comfort zone, which is why I'm keen to do more Sydney gigs and branch out.
Do you find that there's a difference in terms of the audience? Like, are they a bit more rowdy in Sydney or
no?
A bit more polite?
Because I feel like the basement can probably be one of the rowdiest rooms if you let it.
Okay. Okay.
But that's for open mics. I think that I tend to find the ticketed gigs tend not to be as rowdy because, they're ticketed. People are paying to see comedy. They know what they're getting. Whereas the open mics are free entry. So, like, people rock up that are just there to have a drink and they watch some comedy. And sometimes they have, a few people that are like loud in the audience or whatever, and I love that though. I loved it. I did crowd work when I was up in Wonderland, and I did crowd work with the front row. And I actually got a good video. I'm going to put that up. I got like a good crowd work video from that. And I find you're saying about what I think of the crowds. Look, I find that they're not, the crowd that was there wasn't as rowdy.
Yeah.
But they were definitely more receptive to an interstate comedian at first because I was sort of like, you know, they brought me up saying that I was from Canberra, so like they were it was like interesting, you know, like someone that I hadn't seen before performing. It kind of was like a good icebreaker, as well as I kind of learnt a couple of suburbs that I could reference in my jokes. Like in the crowd work video, I was talking about like, oh, you got a couple of blokes from Redfern here, and that's what like helped break the ice because I was trying to be like relatable.
Yeah.
So I think they were like really good and receptive, and it definitely helped bring the mood up for the rest of my set by just getting the initial laughs out and like getting that connection with the audience.
Is it a younger crowd there though?
They were a younger crowd, yeah.
I find I get quite nervous when it's a younger crowd for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. I mean, the other day I had like a very short set at where was it? Kinsellers, which is near Darling Point, King's Cross area. Yeah. Very young crowd, and I was like, oh, I don't think this joke is going to work. I don't think this joke is going to work. I think they're too young to know who, you know, the Hansons are and things like that. So do you know who the Hansons are?
No.
The Mbop. So I took some jokes out thinking, no, it's not going to work. But then I realized maybe I'm underestimating the audience. Maybe they do know a lot more about music and music history and things like that than I realized. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess part of it's reading the room, but part of it's also being confident in your material no matter how old the crowd is.
Yeah.
I sometimes do, like I got a couple of jokes that work better with a younger crowd. I think I'm the other end of the scale. If I see an older crowd, like if there's a lot of white hair in the audience, I'm like, Jesus. But like if I just...
So I'm just laughing because that's my crowd. I like the older crowd.
Oh no! See, I'm the guy that'll walk out and just be like, you know, like bloody hell, they left the gate open on the nursing home today.
I like the baby boomers.
Yeah. Jeez, you got 90% of the housing market all in one room. But yeah, a lot of beachfront property. Like I'm trying to adapt it to Sydney. I sort of be like, oh, there's a lot of Bondi retirement homes in this room. I don't even know Sydney that well. I don't even know if that's an accurate reference. But there's a few of the actors from RPA on this. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other stuff. But I tend to find that my stuff works better with a younger crowd, but sometimes I'll just go and do it on an older crowd and it'll just do just as well because one thing is like they might actually get the references and I've just underestimated how much they keep up to date with stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're at a comedy gig, most of the time, like even if they are an older crowd, they're probably more in touch with, you know, what's going on because they're out and about, you know, like the sort of person that won't listen to a joke and understand it probably wouldn't go out to a comedy gig. They'll probably just stay at home.
Yeah, that's true. I think that they tend to be more open-minded people if they're going to watch comedy. You have to be. And they're probably not as thick skin either. I mean, as thin skin.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like physically their skin's thinner. They're more prone to bruising and accidents, but like spiritually, their skin's thick. I've had one of the best crowd work bits that I did was with an older couple that was in the front row at Smith's. I've got a whole bunch of crowd work videos that I have stored, and I just am going to slowly put them out like once a month. I'll put out a different video. I've probably got about 5 or 6 put aside, and one of them I won't sort of give it away too much, but the Oh, the listeners will have to wait for that with bated breath. Someone's going to listen to this podcast and just sit there like, oh, I have to refresh Marky Worthington's page every day, just waiting for this crowd work video. I think that people care.
Well, yeah, it's good that you do a lot of crowd work. I mean, I think a lot of comedians would be keen to watch it just to get some tips as well.
Yeah, well, I don't do. Trust me, don't try and get advice from me. Anyone out there that's looking for advice from me
must be desperate.
Just stop. Yeah, stop. We got you're at the end of the tether. But no, I mean, this is the thing. Being a room runner, I'm generally fairly conscious of accidentally giving advice that might be bad, because people, it's their first time, maybe they'll come up to me and ask me something, and I'll be like, look, man, if I give you advice, if I give anyone advice, all I'm doing is telling them what I think might be funny and not what the audience might think is funny.
Okay.
So I always find the best feedback is usually from the audience, not the other comedians. You can take advice from other comedians, I think, but at the end of the day, I think that it's always best to try it on stage and see how it goes. I reckon that's the best method to writing jokes.
Yeah, that's the best feedback, and the most honest feedback you can get is from the audience in that moment when you're doing that joke.
Yeah, and even if it's even if you don't get a good response, I've done jokes that weren't great. Look, I'll admit it, I've done jokes that weren't great. See, humble as well. Yeah, what was that? Sorry.
I think we all have some jokes that ain't great. So.
Yeah, this is a shout out to any comedian that's listening for advice. Sometimes you'll do jokes that aren't great. It'll happen. But
it's a learning curve.
Exactly. Yeah, but I was thinking with that, it's like you go to a different venue, you try the same joke and it works. So sometimes the crowd isn't always an accurate representation of every crowd. So it's really hard to tell sometimes, like you're saying, the age of the crowd, the references, and you'd experience as well other countries, people might not get a reference. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about how this guy had a really good joke that it worked when he was home in America, but then when he went over to the UK, he tried the joke and it didn't work, and it was because they don't, one of the terms in there, they call it something different. He said truck, but they were no, call it a lorry. And then as soon as he changed that one word, they understood what he was talking about.
Yeah, that does happen. Sometimes a joke you write, and then all you have to do is just change one word, and it just makes all the difference. So, yeah. And also, I find, just because you may not be getting loud laughter doesn't mean the joke isn't good. Because some people don't laugh out loud. Some people will just keep it in and just... Yeah, everyone laughs really different as well.
Yeah,
so.
Just keep it in and have a stroke when they're 65.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I remember when I did a gig, and I didn't. There was this one girl. She just had her face down eating her meal. She didn't respond, nothing. And then after my set was over, she was the one that came up to me and said, "Oh my God, I loved it. I loved your bits. It was so funny." And I'm like, I didn't even notice that you were laughing. I didn't even think you were paying attention. I didn't say that to her, but that's what I was thinking. So some people, they enjoy it, but they may not always show it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, shout out to that person who's listening to this podcast now that's followed you ever since. I've had a few like that, and someone pointed something out, which I thought was a valid point. Just because someone's not laughing doesn't mean they're not listening.
Exactly.
And sometimes to listen, people like listen quietly. You know, they'll listen to the bit. They might be like relating to the bit so much that they want to hear it, so they don't sort of like they're listening so intently that they're not like laughing. But then again, I'm willing to admit as well that like, hey, sometimes people just aren't listening or not laughing when I'm doing comedy.
Yeah.
It just,
that's true. Sometimes it could just be a terrible bit that you're doing. Yeah, maybe it's just not funny.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's I guess that's a good overview of everything to come. I'm happy to happy with that. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up aside from the upcoming gig? We'll do a plug for that in a sec. But is there anything that you'd like to plug before we wrap up?
No, I can't think of anything.
Well, either way, if you do have anything, I'm sure you'll post it on socials. So where can anyone find you if they wanted to find your social media?
Instagram, I'm at Thao Cao.
Yep.
And Facebook, I've got a comedy page called Thao Thanh Cao.
Excellent. And I think maybe Twitter as well. Was there a Twitter?
I'm on Twitter, but it's not worth following, to be honest. Yeah. I don't have many followers, and some of the things I post might be a bit too political. I don't really post anything comedy. I don't post any comedy stuff on my Twitter page.
Oh, there you go. So if you want the comedy stuff, head over to Facebook and Instagram. If you want
if you want to know my political views on certain things, you can go there too.
Yeah, if you want,
but it might not be very popular. My political views.
If you want the saucy political stuff, then head on over to find the Twitter.
Yes,
it's a hidden gem. See if you can unlock the hidden platform of Twitter.
Yeah, well, it's mainly retweets than anything. So
yeah. No, I'm sort of tapping into Twitter a little bit. Just whenever I post to other social media, I post to Twitter as well, just so that I can sort of keep my Twitter page active, because I understand that although we don't use it much in Australia, like it tends to be the more popular social media platform in the States. So I occasionally I've had guests on the show that are that have an active Twitter page, like Daniel Muggleton uses his Twitter. I've had him on the show. Tom Ballard, I've had him on the show. And yeah, so I've had a couple of people that use their Twitter, so I always like to get as many shout outs as possible. And if you enjoyed the episode and you want to come along and watch some comedy live, head on out to the basement on the 5th of April, where you'll be able to see both of us on the lineup. But Tal will be doing an hour of the new hour, which is Marmalade. So how is it to hear me say your hour name, like with my, bogan voice?
It was good.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't say it too bad. It's like, yeah, Marmalade. But yeah, thanks for being on the show. Really was really good chatting to you, and I'm really looking forward to the gig on the 5th. I will be doing a competition as well on this episode. So if anyone shares this episode, you can get a double pass, which I'll cover for the gig. So you go into the draw to win a double pass by sharing this episode to come along to the gig on the 5th. And yeah, that's part of what I do to help promote it. Remember, every ticket sold, you potentially go in the draw to win a $50 bar tab at the basement as well. So try to push as much as I can when it comes to promoting live comedy. So yeah, cheers again for being on, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you later.
Don't buy me a drink. Just name names.
Yeah, right. Big Tony. You'll get fucking thrown out.
The strip club with your floppy disk.
Yeah, all day. Make people feel shame for shit all day.
Don't blow
Turn
it.
it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right.
Keep it simple. Count your money.
That they're not proud of.
Just give me $10. All right.